No one.
What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the latest Gators Online show. Zach Albaverdi and Nick Del Torre coming to you after Florida's 2023 spring game. I'm sure you guys had a chance to watch us from the field as we gave our rapid reaction. Now we're going to talk in full about what we saw from the Gators on Thursday night. We will assess the quarterback battle, assess the defense, talk about the newcomers. Nick and I will debate the spring game. We got hoops to get into. And then don't forget, as we devote the last 5 minutes of this podcast to FSU's absolute choke job in baseball. And it's rivalry week for the UF baseball team as they host Georgia this weekend. Nick, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, shout out to Perry. I'm tired. I was up late. Just finished my double espresso. We're here, and we're gonna talk football before I head to baseball.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm in my off season now. This is this is glorious time for Zach Albaverdi. Nick, you just keep on churning, man.
Yeah. Let's see. So let's say Florida. If Florida goes all the way to the championship series, that will end June 26th, June 27th. I get married June 30th. I get back from the honeymoon July 14th. And we have to be in Nashville for SC Media Days, July 17th.
Yes.
So I'll sleep when I'm dead.
And then we go to Utah. That's open the season with that.
I'll sleep when I'm dead, Zach.
But that is a long ways away, and I think for Florida fans, they are probably happy after seeing what they saw on Thursday night. That the Gators have a few more months before they have to take the field for a real game. But we now get into our takeaways from the spring game. I think all eyes were on the quarterback battle. Everybody wanted to see more than 24 newcomers that took the field and made their debut in orange and blue. But I think for the most part, Nick, and we'll get more into the defense throughout this episode, but I think that the defense stole the show, and it was an underwhelming performance from the offense.
Yeah, I think that all started up front, and I wrote it on Wednesday of the things that I was looking for. The offensive line was missing a bunch of guys, and I was wondering, okay, well, you're missing Micah Mazuka, who should be your starting left guard. You're missing Kingsley Eguakin, who should be your starting center. How can you, even banged up, handle Florida's new defensive line, which I think is not only more talented but also deeper across the board? The answer was no. I wonder why you've taken a 4-star high school guard and Roger Kearney and a 4-star high school center and Najee Harris and told them to stop playing those positions and switch. Because Roger Kearney and Jake Slaughter both had a night trying to snap the ball, which sets the offense back. And I think, Billy Napier called it a dirty pocket. It was filthy all night, in a spring game where you can't hit the quarterbacks. Thank goodness, because the quarterbacks would have been, peeling themselves off the turf last night. So defense definitely won the day. I don't think the offense inspires a lot of confidence or inspired a lot of confidence on Friday night. And the biggest thing, obviously, is we said it last night on the field, Zach, is this time last year, the story was Anthony Richardson will be the Gators starting quarterback in 2022. We do not leave the 2023 game knowing who will start.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason why now one of the big themes coming out of this is that the Gators are not done adding to the quarterback position. Now, the real interesting thing will be if Austin Simmons does reclassify, which is a possibility, would they still add a portal quarterback? Because if you really listen to what Billy had to say, and we'll kind of assess the quarterback battle in another segment, but like if you really listen to his post-game comment, he didn't necessarily say that it will be a portal player that they add. He said that they'll add another player to the position. So is he referring to Austin? Is he, but he's not going to turn away some stud that shows up in the portal next month. Right. That could be his guy. I just don't necessarily know that he's banking on that or counting on that. But the fact that it's even a conversation, Nick, is to your point. Like, we weren't here last year. There wasn't, the Gators are going to go out and go portal hunting for another guy at the quarterback position. Like, the fact that Jack and Graham, one of them hasn't really locked up this job is why they're still in the market for one.
And so we're still learning Billy, but I take him. I think he's a very honest person. Like, he's not going to come out and say, yes, we need a transfer portal quarterback. But I think if you read between the lines and as we start to get to know him more, I think he answered it yesterday. And to me, my opinion, what I heard was, yes, we're going to add one more. And that process is already underway. Now, I don't think Billy Napier says, because it was my question. I don't think his answer was, you know what, Nick, we're tampering like hell, and we got a good guy coming in the portal. I don't think that's what Billy Napier meant. So to me, to my ears, when I hear, yes, we will add a person to that room, which is what he says.
And it's already
underway. That doesn't mean, yes, Nick, we're tampering and we're trying to get, a quarterback from X university to come. I think it's yes. And we've been talking to a player who we're recruiting about reclassifying, and he could be here this summer. That's what I heard. So to me, Austin Simmons will reclassify and he'll be in the 23 class. And I think we already talked about reading those tea leaves when the Thursday after, Simmons commits on a Tuesday, and then Thursday they're offering another 2025 quarterback. I think you're looking at that and saying, okay, well, maybe they need another 25 quarterback because something's happening. Now, let's say someone like Grayson McCall comes into the portal tomorrow, Saturday, when it opens, and then calls Billy Napier right away and goes, Coach, I want to be a Gator. I don't think you tell him, you know what, we're set. We've got a current 16-year-old coming in, and I know you saw our spring game. We're fine. So I don't think that's the case. But
so then they would have 5.
Yes.
You go from 3 to 5.
Graham Mertz only has a year. Max Brown or Jack Miller could look and go, what the heck just happened? Everyone left, and then they've added too many, and they could leave. So the portal's going to work both ways for Florida. It's going to work with players going in and players going out. To me, when Billy Napier said we're already in that process, we're already underway, to me that meant Austin Simmons, and then you could be good. You're not looking for a transfer portal quarterback just for depth. You're looking for a portal quarterback who could potentially come in and start over Graham Mertz or Jack Miller. But the way Billy Napier said it, I don't think that's what he was talking about.
I do want to add, Graham actually has 2 years of eligibility left thanks to the COVID year. So
we got to get past this COVID year. I can't. I'm running out of fingers and toes to count on. I don't know how many. I thought he had 2 years to play one, but who knows?
He's got 2 years of eligibility left.
What's up, Florida fans? Wanted to encourage all of you to go check out rogueshop.com. If you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, and or anxiety and stress, Rogue Shop sells CBD, THC, edibles, smokables, and vapes, as well as handcrafted bath salts, soaps, candles, massage oils, pain creams, and topicals. Rogue Shop is a true small business, disabled, veteran-owned, Black-owned, woman-owned company. They have 5 employees and make all of their products with their own cannabis grown in their manufacturing facility. Visit rogueshop.com. That's ROGUESHOP.com.
I mean, it's look, this quarterback situation is going to give us something to write about, I think, for months now, Nick. I mean, and this battle is not going to be done either, right? I mean, I think that this is going to continue now. We expected that. We both said last week, regardless of who plays better or how they both play, no guy's going to win the job on Thursday. And that was the case. But I really like how you kind of read into Billy's comment, because it says to me that he is, and this staff is, going into the rest of this offseason with the assumption and expectation, this is what we've got. I mean, maybe some superstar who's like a 5-star caliber quarterback recruit that's disgruntled at his school that he's at right now and doesn't win the starting job once their spring game is over with. Maybe he all of a sudden hops into the portal and that changes the plan, but in the outlook. But I think right now, Miller and Mertz and that law firm is what they have to work with. And if you just look at the numbers, Mertz had better numbers in the spring game, but I felt like watching it, I thought Miller probably had the better game. Both of them didn't really play well, but you clearly see why this is a back and forth battle and why one guy hasn't really been able to separate himself. And I don't think that happened on Thursday either.
That's probably what you wanted. I think going into the game, we've talked about this, just even from something as small as the locker placement. To us, it seemed that Graham Mertz, they've wanted him. They're not going to give it to him, but they want him to win this job. He just hasn't. And I think you're going into that game Thursday night, and thinking, okay, Graham Mertz can win the job tonight. And he just doesn't. You look at the numbers. He finished the game 18 of 29, 62% for 244 yards. I looked down at that at the end of the game, and I'm like, when did that happen?
And no turnovers. Let's mention that, because remember they had interceptions in both of the first two scrimmages. So that was a positive. But like you said, his numbers were better than how we felt the performance was.
I've watched the game twice now, and I still look down at that stat line, and I'm like, when did that happen? And I watched the game more than once, and I looked down, and I'm like, it just did not feel that way. Like there was, he just started off really slow, so those numbers came in the second half. It was just a sloppy game with penalties and sacks and things like that. I don't leave the game feeling great about the Gators quarterback room. I feel great about the running game, and now I just need a quarterback, and Florida's just going to need a quarterback to keep defenses honest, because the running game, my goodness, Cam Carroll runs in such a disrespectful manner, and you just need a quarterback who can just keep a defense honest. I think Florida's running game could be really good. It makes sense. You've got two Big Ten quarterbacks, and you're going to have a Big Ten ground and pound defense or offense, baby.
Yeah, I mean, go with the bread and butter, right? So, and yeah, Cam had an absolute amazing run, and I think Nick, you and I got told from a program source pretty early in camp that this guy was going to be in the running back rotation, and we saw that. So, but look, I think the rotation now for Mertz and Miller, that was another interesting aspect of the spring game. Like all of last year in the orange and blue game, Anthony Richardson took every single snap with the first team offense. Jack Miller didn't get any reps with those guys. He was exclusively with the backups. Not only did they both get their opportunity with the starters on Thursday, they also played with the backups as well. And to me, I feel like, and I asked Billy this after the game, I feel like that might even be more of an indicator of maybe who should get the job. If you can elevate the play of the backups, I mean, it's one thing to go out there and play well with the starters. And I think that these guys, man, I was on the field for the game, Nick, and boy, we were going back and forth. You loved it. It was a punting marathon.
Beautiful. It's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's I think that Miller has obviously made this a competition. I think that where he was last year and certainly where he was in the bowl game, coming off of all those months of injury, I think that he's in a better place. And Mertz, I think, has not maybe progressed to where the hope is where he would have been at the end of spring. But now we go into this summer, Nick. And I mean, what is your expectation for the guy? I mean, I think that, like you said, we've alluded to how we felt like they were shaping it up to win. But do you have a front runner in your mind now going into the offseason?
I think it would be disingenuous if I said anyone else other than Graham. I still think Graham is the quarterback that Florida wants to win this job. Jack Miller's not gonna, he's not a golden retriever. He's not gonna, sit down, lay down, roll over. He's gonna make Graham earn it. I just don't know that I've seen anything from Graham that would make me say, yeah, he's clearly better. So I guess that's the challenge, and that's probably the challenge that the coaching staff is telling Graham this morning is you're going to have to win this. You have not won this yet. And obviously they'll do, OTAs and fall camp or spring and then fall camp. So there's still a lot of time left. There's like 130 something days until you have to throw somebody out there against Utah. I think the quarterback battle might go all the way into fall camp, to be honest with you.
And I also wouldn't rule it out. If whoever wins the job, they're going to have to play well enough to keep it. And because they're so even, this could be a season where one guy gets the nod another week if another guy's not performing up to par, which I know Florida fans don't even want to entertain that thought. You'd like one guy to just be QB1 and keep that role throughout the season. We'll find out if they can, Nick. So, but enough about the quarterbacks. There was a whole another side of the ball that we got to see, and I think, like we said at the start, they stole the show. The defense did its thing. First time Austin Armstrong was out there as the defensive coordinator, calling plays in front of fans in the Swamp, although there were some other guys calling plays as well. Jay Bateman got his opportunity to dial some things up with the other team. But good debut for Austin Armstrong, and I think his unit, Nick, he had some fun post-game, that video that made its way on social media. But I think that the aggressiveness, we thought that, at least I did, that there was going to be maybe somewhat of a vanilla game plan that they rolled out on Thursday, and that wasn't really the case. I mean, they definitely blitzed and had some pressures and got after it.
Yeah, I think that must just be one of the defensive calls, dice personnel, or something like that, Zach. The defense, I think, is going to be fine. It all starts up front in football, but especially in the SEC, and I think Florida's defensive front is going to be really good. I still think you need to add pieces to that defense. Certainly an edge rusher, a linebacker.
There's the edge right there. Speaking of,
yeah, an edge rusher, another outside cornerback, maybe a nickel, and a starting safety. But to me, the Florida's defense certainly won the day. The issue you get into with every spring game, this isn't just a Florida thing, is, okay, well, is Florida's defense that good or is the offense that bad? I mean, we all remember like the Muschamp teams and the way that Muschamp recruited defense. Those defenses were legit. They were awesome. And then you're watching, you're like, okay, well, this offense stinks. Is defense any good, or is it just because the offense is terrible that they're looking this good?
And then we came to find out every season that it was both of those. The defense was really good.
Muschamp's was somehow both. It was like, no, the defense wasn't just picking on a bad offense. They are really good. And the offense is really bad.
Also that bad.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's this case. Maybe the offense will be terrible in 2023 and the defense will be really, really good. I hope not. I hope not. But
I think with some offensive linemen back, they got to be better.
Yeah, that'd be the hope. I mean, Kingsley had his own snapping issues. Certainly not as many as we saw last night, but had his own snapping issues at times. And Florida's got to figure something out on an offensive line. I think Micah Mazuka coming back should help you at left guard. We've been talking about, based on what we've been told, that people were pushing Kingsley for a starting spot. I call cap. I don't think so. I think Kingsley's your starter, and you need him to get back.
So much so that he just got the night off.
Yeah.
I think that shows you where the center. They needed both of those guys to get all the reps at center. And my man, you can just chill over there on the
Bro.
sideline.
And then if I'm Kingsley, I'm watching that and I'm like, whew, yesterday's price is not tomorrow's price because we are good, bro. We are Gucci. I'm calling up Florida Victorious. I'm like, yo, we gotta bump up those NIL numbers. Because your boy is starting. I don't know what these writers are saying about there's a position battle. They can battle themselves.
But they missed him. They missed Micah Mazuka. They missed Jalen Farmer. They missed Cam Waits. And as long as those guys are out, Cam Jackson, Caleb Banks, those dudes are going to eat. Tyreek Sapp, who we got to meet with after the game, who's blocking Des Watson. I mean, we're having to deal with all those. I mean, their depth on the interior is really where it's at. I think that is legit. I think that they're good offense or bad offense. I think that defensive front is going to be able to hold its own pretty much against every single team that they play, save for maybe Georgia. That's probably the only offensive front that is going to be able to give that defensive unit a hard time, because I think Cam Jackson, we continue to hear it. Tyreek Sapp hyped him up more after the game. Like, he's going to be a difference maker in the middle. And it was unfortunate that we didn't get to see another guy in the middle, Taraja Mitchell. He did not play in the spring game, so it was an opportunity for a lot of other guys at that inside linebacker spot to play. I thought Manny Nunnery had a pretty good game. But Scooby Williams, he got his go with the starters. It was him and Shamar James. I don't think Scooby will start in the fall, but I also think that he's going to be in the rotation. And talking to Bateman, they're going to use him in like that creeper role. He's going to be moved around a lot. But they missed Wingo, they missed Mitchell. There were some key players that were out, and I think they still played pretty well. But that, as you mentioned, Nick, the secondary, I came into it looking to see what was going to happen at Star. I think that Jadarius Perkins, my impression is that he's basically in line to start there. I don't think it's going to be Jaden Hill. He was working with the second team. He was working at nickel, but Hill's also been still repping at cornerback. I think Jalen Kimber right now is probably in line to get that job. I mean, Devin Moore did not play. He's been out for, I think, pretty much most of spring, coming off of that show. I mean, did he play some? He just didn't participate. Like, I think he did some position drills and got out there and
he's done individual drills, but he hasn't done anything.
But he's just
7-on-7.
I mean, it's just this is basically Jalen Kimber's job at this point, unless they move Hill back there. But I think they need Hill there for the depth at Star. So that seems to have sorted itself out, but safety still has not. And they got to go out there and get somebody to come in and compete with Kamari and Miguel.
Yeah, I mean, the Khalil Jackson's touchdown comes in front of Miguel Mitchell last night. Kamari Wilson played a good, backstop, I'll call it. A bunch of tackles on some long runs. I think you need you don't need a safety. You don't need safety depth. You need a guy who maybe only has a year left that can come in and play right now. Because you've got Jordan Castell and Bryce Thornton, like you've got young players behind them. But everyone in the safety room is very young.
Yeah, and you just and I think when Billy says they need safety help, it's not necessarily a knock on Miguel Mitchell or Kamari Wilson, because those two are in line to start, but it's just that they do not. If one of those guys go down, you are relying on a true freshman or someone like Jamarcus Weston who hasn't played the position, or someone in like Dakota Mitchell who hasn't played at all. So there's just not a lot of experience there that you can rely on and feel good about, and that's why it's so important for them. If another guy comes in from the portal with experience at safety and he pushes Kamari and Kamari still starts, then that's great. But you need somebody, maybe even two guys, just so that you're not relying on a straight true freshman or inexperience if there's an injury at that spot, and you hate to even consider that possibility, but that's the reality, and that's why it's I think such a dire need.
think you hit the nail on the head. Kind of the way that I've been saying it and painting it. I'm guessing people will probably take that as Nick thinks both of those guys stink and they need someone to play over them. But you said it perfectly. Just a twisted ankle, and for Miguel or Kamari, and like you said, now you're playing somebody with 0 snaps.
Yeah, or a concussion. I mean, those dudes are trying to take heads off.
That's true. So that's a huge thing. They'll be staring at the portal. It's
it's also not a knock on Jordan Castell or Bryce Thornton. By the way, we're not ready to count on you as true freshmen early enrollees. Like,
I mean, yeah, the guys that should be getting ready for prom.
Yeah, so that's just where they're at. But I think that you feel good about defensive line. We'll see on the inside linebacker spot, and as Nick mentioned, I think that they obviously have some good guys there. I think at the top of their depth chart at edge with Antoine Ryland Powell, who did not play in the spring game, and then obviously Princely, who's going to start, but still could use another player at that spot. So we'll see what they do in the portal. Addressing that now, that's right around the corner. But before we turn our attention to transfers, and that now becomes, I think, the new topic with Florida football. I do want to mention some of the freshman standouts that we got to see. We've heard a lot about these guys throughout the spring, and now we actually got to see them. And I think that there were 5 to me, Nick, that really stood out just in the spring game. I'll have a story at Gators Online that details a couple more guys that we felt like flashed this spring and will play in the fall. But to me, there were 5 that really stood out in the spring game. And the first one that I'll mention was a guy that I know you were happy to see make an impact, and that was Andy Jean. A man got in there and made a couple catches, had a great grab in the red zone for a first down. But we saw all the talk that guys have kind of heaped on him. That kind of showed up on Thursday, and he made you look good.
The Haitian sensation, my guy, Andy Jean from down there in Miami. I'm trying to pull up. I'm just pulling up stats right now. 2 catches, 28 yards with an 18-yarder in there. Listen, I'm leading the parade, Andy. No pressure, but I got a lot riding on this guy.
Yeah, he definitely is a guy that, look, I mean, he's not going to probably be heavily in the rotation, but I think that he has got a chance to play as a freshman. I think he's got more of a shot than Aiden Mizell, who will probably be used on special teams. Maybe they'll throw him out there for a go route at some point, but he's still got a lot of weight to put on and develop. I got something to give him, Zach. Yeah, I mean, Andy's in a much better position physically to play as a freshman. Another guy I think physically who could play as a freshman is Treyon Webb. I mean, I think Cam Carroll was very impressive to see, but Treyon Webb also looked good, and he got a lot of run in that game, and I think is a great addition to that running back room, Nick.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. We did see the running backs catching the ball a little bit more.
Yeah.
In the spring game, and to me, that can get you on the field. I don't know. I mean, Montrell caught a couple of passes, but I don't think that Montrell is going to be the guy you feature as a pass catcher. I think Etienne, Carroll, and Webb are much better receivers of the football. It's just
Montrell had that 38-yarder.
Yeah, you get him the ball in space. He turns around. There's nobody there. He gets a head full of steam, and then that's what I was talking about with Kamari being the backstop a little bit there. And you're kind of just like trying to use the sideline and like shuffling down the sideline, like, oh my God, don't get run over. Don't let him beat me inside. Let's just keep trying to. You're almost like a sheep herder. You're just trying to herd him out of bounds.
Yeah. Oh man. So shout out to Webb, 11 carries for 53 yards, 4.8 average. Cam Carroll had 39 yards rushing on 9 carries. And then, the other running backs that we got to see, obviously the stars of the position, Trevor Etienne, 51 yards on 9 carries, and then Montrell Johnson, 36 yards on 7 carries. Both guys average over 5 a touch, and then Montrell had 2 catches for 51 yards. Now, moving over to the defensive side and some freshman guys that I thought flashed on Thursday, Kelby Collins, I thought had a really good game, finished with 5 tackles and was a guy that was really involved in kind of getting dirty down there in the trenches. TJ Searcy, once again, he showed up. He's played well in the scrimmages, and he played well once again in the spring game. He had 6 tackles, including a sack, and 2 tackles for loss and a quarterback hurry. So he got after it. And I think TJ is a guy that we've heard a lot of good things about this spring, Nick.
He's a guy that I think comes in as a one thing on the mind player, get to the quarterback, and he can do that, and he will be able to do that throughout his career. I think you'll see glimpses of that. What he has been working on all spring is make me a first and second down player, not just a third and long player. And I think as he continues to put on a little bit of weight, as he gets used to the speed, the game slows down for him a little bit. I think this is going to be a really good player for Florida. I think a lot of the time that we've seen him out at practice, they're trying to, hey, set the edge, hey, stand tall against this, and make him a player that can stand up to, being a guy you can put in on first down, second down in running situations. But I like TJ Searcy a lot. He's probably the guy that doesn't get talked about as much when you look at the defensive line. But someone who I think is we might not be talking about him now, but I think we'll be talking about TJ Searcy for years to come. I really like him as a player, and he's kind of like a sponge. I didn't know that he would be this quickly getting as good as he is against the run. And shout out to Mike P. Probably working with him a ton.
And that was a big recruiting win for the Gators. Like that, if folks remember at the time, that was like one of the early recruiting battles at 4-1, and you're like, okay, all right, like they're gonna go out there and get some top 50, top 100 caliber guys, and maybe go into some places that you don't expect them to win. I really like what he's shown this spring, and I think that obviously they still want to add some guys to that edge spot, I think potentially, but he is definitely the future there, and showed that once again in the scrimmage. And I think the last freshman worth mentioning for his performance in the spring game is Jaden Robinson, man. He's a guy that the staff really likes. He's one of Billy's favorite players in the class, and obviously being from the local area from Lake City, has got a lot of passion to come here and play for the Gators. And with Wingo out, Mitchell out, it was a great opportunity for him at that inside linebacker spot, and he made the most of it. Finished with 7 tackles, second to only Deuce Spurlock, who had 8. But Robinson made 7 tackles. He had that great sack where he just came in on the blitz and got after the quarterback. He also had a tackle for loss. He had a pass breakup. He was getting after it, man. And Nick, this is a guy that I think had that crazy stat out of high school where he scored like a defensive touchdown in 7 straight games. So he's another one that, was headed to South Carolina. They got him to stay home, and I think it's going to pay dividends because he is a true inside linebacker, run stuffer, power with his punch, and he's fun to watch.
Yeah. He I mean, you've got some older guys in front of him, but I think, getting him in early. I remember watching like Antonio Morrison, and they just threw Antonio Morrison like right in there. And I think Jaden Robinson, Trajan Mitchell hasn't been injured, but because of his injury history, and honestly, he was practicing, even though he wasn't playing, he was practicing with Ohio State all the way into mid-January. So they're just giving an older player some rest and trying to keep him healthy. You don't want, your linebacker, your 6th-year linebacker coming in and, tearing his Achilles, and then and then you don't get any games out of him. So that's allowed other guys, Deuce Spurlock, Jaden Robinson, to get more reps. And I think Jaden Robinson is going to be the benefactor of having some experience from this spring and running with the twos and being asked to make the calls and things like that. You put a lot on his plate without him, having to worry about, okay, well, I'm going to have to do this against Utah, because I think Mitchell and James will be your starters at that spot. But Jaden Robinson's a player who I really like. Like you said, he's a true old school inside linebacker. I think he's a little more athletic than Antonio Morrison was, though, or maybe a Jared Davis. That might be my comp, because I think he's violent. I think he's physical. I think Jared Davis might be the linebacker he kind of reminds me of.
No doubt, and obviously, anytime you get an inside linebacker, that's at Florida, man. There's been some studs at that spot, and it was cool. Me making my way around the stadium during the spring game, I saw some fans in the stand. Nick ran right into Randy Russell and Ventrell Miller. They told me they were the two biggest fans there that night. So, and obviously Ventrell, I think one of the best inside linebackers that we've seen for the Gators in the last decade. As we put a bow on the spring game, and we'll switch gears here shortly. Nick and I have a little debating to do. It's always great when he and I can disagree or be on other sides of the fence on a topic, and I think that we have found one that is worth us discussing and debating and having you guys hear both sides. And I think I have a feeling where fans are going to lean towards, but that is the topic of Thursday night spring games. Get rid of them, keep them, good thing, bad thing. Nick kind of teased it a little bit in our rapid reaction. If you guys watched that, if you read his thoughts after the game on Gators Online, you know where he stands. But let's hear it from him. The floor is yours, Nick, and then I will respond.
I get why you've done it on Thursday. Last year, I think there were 16 other games, including South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, on the day that.
And I think
Florida,
that's the number this weekend. It's like 15 or something.
I think it's 13. I think it's 13 this year.
Okay.
It's a lot of competition, and I get you're a first year coach. You don't have the same kind of relationships. You don't have it. You need to do something to stand out. To me, I get it, and I went to bat. I stood up for the Florida program. Tiny little Florida who needs me to fight their battles for them. This year, I did it again. Said, hey, it's Thursday night. You've given. Telling fans, I'm like, you've been given 8 weeks to figure things out. Don't worry about it. After watching,
take some PTO.
After watching 2 Thursday games in a row, there were not 42,000 people there last night. If you flip the first 2 numbers around,
are you calling Rick a liar, Nick?
If you flip the first 2, Zach, I have the floor, please. If you flip those first 2 numbers around, I think maybe you had 24,000. So yes, you are getting recruits in the door. Florida wanted to tout last night that they had 300 recruits. A lot of guys there, maybe 13, 14, 15 that you're actually interested in. So 300 sounds cool. They can push that out, and the recruiting writers will say 300 players at Florida's spring game. Look how good they're doing. And Florida is doing recruiting well, but it's not like they have the top 300 kids in the country all at the game. Also, the SEC network chose to put LSU Kentucky baseball on television. So you're not even getting a solo national stage. You're being streamed on a Thursday night in a less than half full stadium. Billy Napier is not like a showman. If he was a showman, first play of the game would have been like Aiden Mizell on a go route with a walk-on covering him, 80-yard touchdown. Let's get people excited. There was no energy in the stadium last night. And for the 300 recruits you had a 30% full stadium, which was quiet. That's not the environment you're trying to get to show people. When you tell them 90,000, there's no place like running out in the swamp. Graham Mertz last year, I remember last year, Montrell Johnson was like, man, I can't believe how many people were at this game. I was like, bro, the place was empty. And then he went out and played in front of 90,000. He was like, yeah, that was different. Graham Mertz last night was like, man, that was really cool. I'm like, what part of that was cool? You played in an empty cathedral. You could hear echoes and you could hear the calls. And it's not, I'm not bagging on the fans that were there, but like, that to me was not a fun experience. And then when the game starts slowly, not only is the stadium empty, but now there's nothing for even the fans who are there who have taken the time off work to come to a game in the middle of a week. There's nothing for them to cheer about. So to me, you're going into year 3. You need to start competing with those teams. Compete with Georgia, compete with South Carolina, Alabama, Ohio State. Compete with them. Get those guys. So now the guys that came to you that you wanted to impress and show the spring game to, now they're going to Georgia on Saturday. And Georgia will have 70,000 people at Sanford Stadium. And now your environment looks terrible compared to theirs. So I stood behind Florida for 2 years doing the game on a Thursday. That experiment's over. You need to go back to Saturday, make it more about the fans, and show the recruits that you get there, show them a great environment, show them a game day like environment. If what was Thursday night is a game day environment, then that means like Florida's having a bad season and people have given up. And it's no shot at the fans, but the coaching staff and the recruiting staff need to start competing with those other teams on Saturday and having a more traditional spring game. The floor is yours, Zach.
Man, that's hard to rebut. I think you might have talked me into it. I mean, gosh.
Like, it's not – I don't want – I'm not trying to bag on the fans at all because, like, the people that did get there last night, good for you. But it's like that's not – there were not 40,000 people at the stadium last night. And Florida will say – I think I put out the thing and a couple of coaches have retweeted it and they're like, thanks, best fans in the country. It's like, yeah, but there were not 40,000, not anywhere close.
I think the point that you make about you're losing crowd by having it on a Thursday, and then that impression that you give recruits of your spring game, which is even if it's 40,000. Which it wasn't. But you still give them the opportunity to then go somewhere else on a Saturday. And if they go to one of the bigger programs that is going to have that turnout, especially because it's on a Saturday, and they see a stadium with 70, 80,000 people, not only did you give them the opportunity to go to that game instead of making them choose, but they went to go see a better environment there than what they saw in the swamp. So
if I'm the number one offensive lineman, defensive lineman, and I go to Florida's game on Thursday, I'm probably walking out being like, damn, that's cool because I'm in high school. I don't have 20,000 people at games. So 20,000 looks big to me. And then I go and Alabama wants me to go there. And Alabama's spring game has 90,000 people there. I'm looking around and go, man, they don't care at Florida. That would be my impression as a 16, 17-year-old kid.
Not
on 2 days.
They won't think, oh, well, they didn't have as many people show up because they did Thursday.
No, a 16, 17-year-old kid is going, okay, it's different here at Alabama. And that's what Florida's trying to create. But if you go, if I'm a 16-year-old kid,
what would the crowd have been if they did it this Saturday at Florida, you think?
Maybe a legitimate 42.
Do you think it would have been more?
There would have been more if Florida played tomorrow instead of yesterday. If they played Saturday instead of Thursday, there would be more people in the stands than there were Thursday night. Unequivocally, that's a fact. This wasn't a holiday weekend. Like, people didn't have Friday off. They don't have Monday off. If you're going to do it on a week and you want to have your own day, do it on a Friday.
See,
that's a holiday weekend where you can make a 4-day weekend out of it. There's no holiday on Monday or Friday. You're asking people to take off work Thursday and Friday to come watch a practice.
I think the one concession that they can make is moving it to Friday. At the very least, you're asking people to come on a day where if they stay, they don't have to work the next day if they're going to make a weekend out of it. You still, I guess, give a window for recruits to still go to 2 games, spring game wise. But also, I still think if you did it on Friday, you might have to make some guys make a decision versus where they're going to go on Friday and Saturday. Just to play devil's advocate, though, one thing I do think that is, what they lose in the spring game crowd and what type of bad impression that could make, they can make up for it by getting the guys there in the fall for a game in the Swamp against LSU, FSU, or just one that is going to be packed. Like that can nullify that. Now, if you don't get a chance to get those guys back on campus and that's the only impression that you get to make, maybe it has an effect. But at the end of the day, how much do crowd sizes impact the kid's decision? I
don't think that it does.
I also think, to your point too, about like, hey, being a first-year staff and not having relationships with the high school coaches, not having relationships with the kids in the immediate classes, like you need to do everything that you can to create opportunities to get them on campus so you can forge those relationships.
Yeah.
But once you get established, that's not as necessary to do. And that's a good point as well.
So you're what happened to the debate?
I mean, dude, I think you changed
what happened
my mind.
to the debate, Zach?
We were supposed to debate.
You should have gone first. You should have gone first.
It was like you were like Eminem and 8 Mile, and then you just handed me the mic, and I was Papa Doc.
Oh no!
I had nothing to say.
No.
At least I didn't choke.
No.
At least I didn't choke. I came back with something, but it wasn't. I didn't have the bars that you had.
Yeah. Listen, and I don't know that Florida's going to change. I might just be screaming.
Now that was my stance last night. I was like, I don't think they're going to change it.
I don't think they're going to. I might be screaming into the void. Recruiting. A lot of fans will tell you, I don't care about the fan experience. Get me 5 stars. I agree with that. Like, play the game on a Monday morning at 9 a.m. if you're going to get 4 or 5 stars to commit to you. I just think that you're missing an opportunity. And when the product on the field was not good last year. And when I look at this year and I look ahead, I'm like, Florida might be a 6-win team again. And you need to start doing things. Well, one, you need to make the football team better. And I think recruiting is going really well. And right now, we'll get into that later. But you need to stop alienating your fan base, especially when your team isn't going to be good and your team is going to struggle. Don't make it harder for your fans to go and see you, to go and watch the game. So to me, it's I've gone to bat for Florida 2 years in a row. I will not go to bat for Florida if we're talking about a Thursday night 2024 spring game. I'm back on the fan side who would like it to be on Saturday or Friday. And I'm glad that you've also come over to the dark side with me here, Zach.
I have, Nick. I think that you won me over, and I don't know if anything's going to change though. But we'll find out next year. We will find out next year. One thing that has changed is where things stand with Florida's name, image, and likeness. And this segment is brought to you by Vitamin Energy. Vitamin Energy is on a mission to make the world healthier and more productive by providing convenient access to vitamins and energy for people on the go. This is a product that will boost your energy levels, your overall health. It's got antioxidant support, helps you with weight management, boosts your immune system. And best of all, there is no jitters or sugar crash. You can get 7+ hours of energy. And if you use our discount code Gators BOGO, you can buy one and get one free. So make sure you guys go check it out at vitaminenergy.com. Naturally caffeinated green tea extract. So highly recommend. And I know that I think, Nick, they were probably taking all type of energy shots to get all this together. I know that this has been in the works and you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes as this news was getting ready to break. But Florida Victorious has officially launched. It has replaced Gator Collective and that entity. Tell folks a little bit about it, why this is significant, and what kind of development this means for Florida's NIL efforts.
Yeah, first, I want to give some flowers to Eddie Rojas. I think Eddie and the work that Jen did with Gator Collective really got the ball rolling. They created something out of nothing, and you've got people all over the country calling their NIL teams collectives because of what the Gator Collective did. I think what Florida Victorious has done, first off, they have the FAST organization, which is a 501c3, a charitable organization. And those are all the tweets you see from players when they're going to the St. Francis House or helping build homes around Gainesville. They're doing a lot of good stuff in the community. Yes, the players are getting paid for community service, but maybe that makes an impact on you. And when you get to the NFL or when you start making some money, you want to give back to your local communities. And then you're going to have Florida Victorious as an NIL company, which will do a lot of the same things that Gator Collective did with the message board and fan experiences and things like that. I think you just have a more professionally run organization. These are guys who run organizations, have run 501c3, whereas Eddie was doing this as a side hustle because he loved the University of Florida and what the University of Florida did to him. And I think with FAST or with Florida Victorious, the Florida Victorious Foundation, you have guys who are, this is just their sole focus. And you've got a team of people who what they're doing on a 9 to 5 is Florida Victorious. So I think that's going to be the biggest difference, is that you just have a team of people who are doing this now as their job, not some people who are only doing it because they love the University of Florida and we're doing it at 6 p.m. when we get home. And that's not fair to say, because Jen Grosso, I would tell her all the time, how you still practice law. Like you're doing Gator Collective full time, and Jen will be on the staff at Florida Victorious. But I think there's just a lot of people. There's more people to do it, and they're getting, because of the way that they handle their business, they're getting more support from the UAA, from the University Athletic Association, from Florida. They sponsored the game last night. If you were in the stadium, you could not help but see that Florida Victorious logo. And I've had a couple, I was able to talk with Nate Barbera for the story that I wrote, and then also got to meet Nate in person last night. Have had a bunch of conversations with him. They're excited about the future, and I think Florida's NIL will take another step in the right direction. And,
again, credit to Eddie and Jen as well, because, you and I think behind the scenes have seen some of the work that they've put in and know how significant of a development this is, so that, like you said, there is that structure and there's more resources and there's more bodies and there's more expertise and just help in place. I think that was needed for Florida's NIL efforts, right? Like, just to continue to take this thing in the right direction and to the next level. I think that was needed. And I think another thing that was needed, and it's unfortunate because, Nick, you reported in depth about this, but I just think they needed a rebrand for Florida, like just the reputation that, the program took, that Gator Collective took from all that Rashada stuff, like to just have a new entity, a different name, and something that's a little bit more professionally run, I just think is going to help everybody kind of put that in the past, and that's not going to be anything that folks can use against Florida, especially on the recruiting trail.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big thing, and we'll see. I think in terms of what Gator Collective did with fan involvement and like a fan run wing, they're going to have that. One of the things is the 96 Club. It's pricey though. $96 a month is not cheap. But you get some cool stuff, a hat, shirt designed by James Bates. So, that's going to look cool. And events with members of the 96 team, with Steve Spurrier himself at his bar and grill. But you've got to try to get fan interaction and fan support, and you can't keep asking the Hugh Hathcocks and the Gary Condrens to just keep writing checks. Like, you need fans to show up and put their money where their mouth is and support these organizations. So I think that you need to come up with some reasons for guys to do it, for fans to do it, other than just, well, Ohio State's got a bunch of money in their NIL program, so I guess we have to write the checks. I think, it'll be interesting to see what kind of creativity they have with events and things that will make fans say, yeah, I want to do that. I'll pay $40 a month to be a part of that.
Absolutely. And there's some hoops players, Nick, that over the past week have looked at Todd Golden's program and decided, you know what, I want to be a part of that. And it was a 10-day stretch where they signed 4 guys officially, adding them to the 2023-2024 roster. Now, one of them was already committed, in Alex Condon, but they got a trio of transfers. We mentioned EJ Jarvis last week, and this past week they got Micah Hanlogton and Walter Clayton Jr., 2 guys that are top 40 overall transfers. Clayton is the highest ranked transfer that Todd Golden and his staff have landed from the portal since they got to Gainesville. It was Micah when he committed, and that lasted for all of a day. And then Walter signed with Florida. And, to me, Nick, that's a huge, recruitment to win. Micah makes a lot of sense. He's coming over from Marshall. Florida's a great stage for him to be on. He's taking over for Colin Castleton, 7'1" center, everything kind of lined up. And obviously things lined up for Clayton. He's from the state of Florida, grew up a Gators fan, kind of wanted to play, I think had dreams to play here. But, dude, this guy played for Rick Pitino, and now this guy's at St. John's, and he had him on an official visit there. I cannot imagine that it was easy for Walter Payton to say no to Rick Pitino, especially after already played for him. But Todd Golden was able to win a head-to-head recruiting battle against Rick Pitino for a guy that played for Pitino. I think that's pretty impressive. And you think of that tandem now with Walter Clayton and Riley Kugel at the guard positions, that's pretty exciting.
What's exciting? Look at Todd Golden's golf polo. Me and Todd dressing alike. I think it's so interesting, the way the transfer portal changes basketball teams. Like Florida's 2023, 2024 team is going to look completely different, and a lot of fans are probably hearing that and saying, good. So it'll be interesting to see. Fudge leaves. I don't know where.
He's going to NBA draft. He's declaring for the NBA draft.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Oh, you're saying like where he ends up. I hear you.
Yeah, no, I think he ends up in Europe. Like I don't think that's a good decision for him to leave. Like you might. I think you're playing in the G League. I don't know that's. It's only 2 rounds in the NBA draft, Zach.
There are only 2 rounds, and Fudge has decided to enter his name into the draft. That I don't think that has been official yet, but it's been reported. And now the Gators got to kind of reassess where they're at. They've gotten the 3 transfers, they've gotten the 2 high school signees, so that's 5 guys there. To join the returning players that are Denzel Aberdeen, Riley Kugel, Will Richard, and Shimmy. So right now, just 9 scholarship players with Fudge's departure, and still a lot more portal work to be had. I think there's a chance they could maybe still add somebody from the 2024 class. They're going to have a couple of guys visiting this weekend, but Portal God Todd staying busy.
Portal God Todd. Put it on a shirt.
Well, I'm sure Perry's going to put it on a meme at some point. And look, we knew, Nick, once this baseball season got going, that it was only a matter of time before every single media member got by Perry. It was my turn this past week after the Gators got the comeback win over Florida State. Absolute choke job by the Seminoles in Gainesville. And now the rivalries continue for the Gators as they host Georgia this weekend, trying to keep their SEC streaks going in terms of series wins. And I cannot wait to see who Perry memes this weekend if the Gators can get that done.
He's going to run out of media members. Before I get
he's going to do Keith Niebuhr.
Keith, yeah, we're adding members for him. So before I move on to Georgia, first off, not a rivalry. Georgia's bad. Georgia stinks at baseball. It makes no sense. I don't understand how Scott Strickland, not the Florida AD, the Georgia baseball coach, who has me blocked on Twitter. Good thing he has me blocked. He won't hear this. He stinks. His program stinks. The state of Georgia has. I thought you were going to say the state of Georgia stinks. No, the state of Georgia has such good youth baseball. They have such good travel ball, youth baseball, little league. It makes no sense that the flagship university in a state as baseball rich as Georgia has a bad college team. Good luck. Consistently bad. They haven't been good since Gordon Beckham was playing shortstop for them. I don't know. They just don't care, I guess. Because if I was the AD at Georgia and my baseball program looked like this year in, year out, we would have a different coach. We would be figuring it out. But before I get to that, before I get to the Georgia baseball series, which not a rivalry. Yes, Florida and Georgia are rivals. Florida and Georgia
not a rivalry series.
Florida and Georgia are not. We're not baseball rivals. They are on two very different levels. And quite frankly, shouldn't be, because Georgia has as much baseball talent as the state of Florida. The baseball programs do not. Florida has significantly more talent. But going back to Florida State, Florida has won 21 of the last 25 against the Noles.
Dominance.
They've won 20 of the last 27 against Miami. That's a 41-11 record against your in-state rivals. Might not even call them rivals anymore, Zach. Sully just dominates Florida and Miami. 41-11 record, 30 games up on your rivals. You'd have to lose all 3 games against both teams for the next decade to have a 500 record against Florida and Miami. That's the kind of dominance that Kevin O'Sullivan has had. This weekend against Georgia, the Dogs actually had a good weekend last week against Kentucky. They'll start Jaden Woods, the left-handed pitcher. He's 3-2 with a 5.10 ERA. They'll start him on Friday tonight against Brandon Sproat. They don't have a Saturday pitcher. They kind of just figure things out on Friday. You try to win Friday, and then you throw who you have Saturday. And then they'll go with another lefty, and Liam Sullivan, who's 4-1 with a 3.08 ERA on Sunday. The big thing for Florida fans, the biggest thing I've been getting asked about all week is what will Florida do on Sunday? Jack Caglione will start on Sunday. Had a awful, terrible start. He would tell you that last week at Tennessee. Walked 8 or 9 guys, didn't make it out of the first inning. And he's got to figure things out. I never thought that he would get yanked out of his start this week. But if Jack has another game this week where he's walking guys, I think you might start to look about changing Sunday. But this week for Jack is, hey, earn that weekend spot again. I think Brandon Sproat and Hurston Waldrip should continue to build off of their great performances last week in Knoxville against this Georgia lineup. And this, to me, I'm looking at it, this is a potential sweep weekend for Florida, but a weekend you should absolutely get at least 2 wins out of playing a Georgia team that just doesn't have the arms or the bats that you have.
So some wins and some Perry memes.
Perry memes this week, yeah. Shout out to Perry.
I can't wait to see who he's got in his crosshairs.
I might have to start DMing Perry some old pictures of you, Zach, so we can just keep the Zach memes going.
No, I want him to spread the love. I want all these different people that he's got to get. He needs to put Jeff Cardozo on one.
Yeah. But I've got like high school Zach with a chin strap, little chin strap facial hair that might need to get me. No mustache. Looking like Amish Zach. You gotta get Cardozo, Sean Kelly. Might have to get Sullivan Bortner in there. There's many memeable people.
We got to go throw David Whitley on there. I mean, we got Edgar Thompson. I mean, come on.
A lot of people to be memed.
Yes. Well, there was a lot of people to discuss today as the Gators finally conclude their spring camp with the orange and blue game. Now we turn our attention to the offseason and the transfer portal. And obviously baseball season will continue to be in full swing. So make sure that you guys follow along with Nick's coverage. Recruiting will heat up. We've got Keith Niebuhr now at Gators Online on the beat with Corey Bender. So make sure you guys look forward to all of that coverage. And we will see you guys next week. For Nick Del Torre, I'm Zach Albaverdi. Thanks to Megan for producing. See you guys.